Today, we're fortunate enough to welcome a doctor who is at the forefront of the research for eosinophilic disease. Dr. Stephen Ackerman, a professor of biochemistry and molecular genetics and the president of the International Eosinophil Society, has been researching eosinophils for 30 years and is currently focusing on the role of eosinophils in the digestive system in an effort to find an easier way to diagnose the disease, a safer and more effective way to treat it, and ultimately to cure eosinophilic enteropathy once and for all. Please welcome Dr. Ackerman.
Thank you all. It's a great pleasure for me to be here as a biomedical scientist and an eosinophil researcher for 30 years, yes, 30 years, and the current president of the International Eosinophil Society. It's an honor to speak to you and represent some of my colleagues, one of whom was supposed to be here on Friday, but was snowed out, Dr. Glenn Ferruta, University of Colorado, Denver, a long-term friend, colleague, and collaborator of mine on eosinophilic disease research. Dr. Amir Kagalwala and Mr. Terry Struda, a nurse practitioner, my new colleagues at the University of Illinois at Chicago, who are joining me in trying to develop new ways to fight this debilitating disease and find non-invasive diagnostic approaches. My colleagues and I have a dedication to understanding, treating, and hopefully curing eosinophilic GI diseases, such as eosinophilic esophagitis, that you have so generously committed yourself to for the next month to raise both money and, importantly, increase awareness. I've been given 3 minutes, a short time, to cover 3 topics: the what, the who, and the why of your campaign for eosinophilic GI diseases, or EGIDs, which is easy to say, and eosinophilic esophagitis, or EE, which is a lot easier to say. First, what is the disease you're fundraising for? How many of you eat and drink, not just to survive, to give your body the nutrients it needs, but for pleasure? Eating is a pleasurable event. Well, on a daily basis, this disease seriously impacts the ability of babies, children, and adults to eat and drink normally. Eosinophilic esophagitis, it's tough to say. Eosino and philic and esophagitis, maybe you want to try to say it with me. Eosinophil esophagitis. Great, that's good. All right, another easier name for you is allergic esophagitis. Everybody knows what allergies are. It's a disease of the esophagus, an allergic disease of the esophagus. In which the esophagus has an allergic reaction to something. We don't understand exactly what it is. It could be a food, it could be an aeroallergen. And the esophagus results in the esophagus not being able to function correctly. Now, I can't go into all the details of the clinical aspects of the disease, so I refer you to your fundraising website and the C.U.R.E.D website and others on the internet for more detailed descriptions. Now, this disease affects eating in 2 different ways. First, the symptoms that are associated with the disease include problems in swallowing, food getting stuck in your esophagus, vomiting, and severe abdominal pain. Second, the treatments for the disease involve seriously limiting what you can eat. Imagine that. Some patients can only drink a specialized elemental formula and must be fed these formulas through gastric or G-tubes, as you saw in the video, in order to get sufficient nutrition, and some have very severely restricted diets. So in 2 ways, imagine that what is often one of your greatest pleasures in life is negatively impacted on a daily basis. Imagine having abdominal pain every time you eat. Or imagine eating only to find that the food gets painfully stuck in your esophagus and that you have to go to the emergency room to have a gastroenterologist put a tube down your esophagus through your mouth and remove that food. You will hear, or will have heard, more about this from other speakers today, but I have a book published by Dr. Glenn Ferruta, and I'm going to leave a copy of it with your teachers so that if you want to read more about eosinophilic esophagitis and learn more about it, you can. Secondly, who are we? Well, Dr. Kagalwala and Dr. Ferruta are both physician investigators, and I, of course, as a biomedical scientist, represent the patients, C.U.R.E.D, and other clinical and research colleagues, all of whom are working on this new disease to improve its diagnosis and treatment and hopefully find a cure. The cure as in cured. In a strict sense, we are physicians, physician scientists, research nurses, like Dr. Struda, who's sitting down in front, who's a nurse practitioner who works in this area. We are striving to make patients more comfortable and make their lives more livable and find out the reasons why they become sick with this horrible disease. Together, our goal is to provide hope for patients with eosinophilic GI diseases like EE. So every penny, dime, quarter, dollar that you raise during your fundraising event, such as your individual events or your musical performances, some of which we saw on the videos, all of this goes to help us perform important experiments and work with patients to try to figure out how we can make them feel better and have a brighter future and a fuller life. Research, as many of you may know, is very expensive, but it is our passion. So we will make sure that the monies you raise are used in the most careful manner possible to achieve these shared and lofty goals. Third, why do we do what we do? Why do we need you in this endeavor? Well, for me, allergic diseases, research, and the eosinophil in particular has been my career passion for nearly 30 years. I'm even wearing something on my tie today which outlines the allergic reactions that are ongoing in the esophagus of a patient with eosinophilic esophagitis. So you can see I wear my work. Dr. Furuta, who couldn't be here, told me on Thursday that when he goes into work, there's an inscription on the pillar at Children's Hospital that was spoken by Molly Blank, and that says, "You only pass through once, make it count." Our it today is eosinophilic esophagitis. In all of our professional efforts, we're ultimately committed to making the life better for patients who have this disease, since this is how we can really make a difference in life as both physicians and scientists and people involved in fundraising for important events like this. My colleague, Dr. Kalgalwala, who's here today talking to science classes, is a clinician investigator. He's passionately devoted to the welfare and well-being of his pediatric patients. He sought me out when he joined the University of Illinois at Chicago last year so we could forge new research studies on EE. And why C.U.R.E.D? First, funding for biomedical research has been in decline over the past 5 years from the government, the NIH, and other sources, so it's harder and harder to obtain funding for research. C.U.R.E.D has been extremely important and at the forefront in raising awareness and considerable amounts of funding for research on eosinophilic GI diseases since its inception. C.U.R.E.'s efforts have clearly contributed to greater understanding of EE and moved us closer to a cure. As president of the International Eosinophil Society, I too do fundraising every year to enable nearly 150 eosinophil researchers and physician scientists from all over the world to come together. These are people who are interested in eosinophilic diseases. We come together, we meet, we discuss the research and progress and understanding in terms of what the functions and roles of the eosinophil are in allergic diseases such as eosinophilic esophagitis. And we had a special session on this disease last July. So I can appreciate your efforts and what an awe-inspiring group of colleagues you have here at Highland Park High School. You're coming together to raise money for this disease, a disease that, by the way, one of your alumni has. It's a truly remarkable event. I've spoken to Mr. Gorleski, and I have a great admiration for your dedication, and appreciation for your ingenuity, and I'm inspired by the passion you are all bringing to this annual fundraising event. Your efforts represent yet another, but certainly not the last it that you as students, faculty, and administrators at Highland Park High School will make count. In closing, please remember the what, a disease that impacts a basic necessity of life, eating. The who, the patients, C.U.R.E.D, physicians, and scientists all working to find a way to make life better for these patients. And the why, we all ultimately would like to make a difference in our lives and the lives of others. We're grateful for your efforts. We look forward to all of your future adventures and ask you to please contact us if we can help now or in the future. Thank you.